Hi folks, once again Minister Nixon's here to provide an update on the flooding situation in the northern part of the province, so I'll pass it to him.
Well, thanks for that, Jess, and good afternoon, everyone. For today's update, I'm joined by Scott Long, the Executive Director of the Alberta Emergency Management Agency, who is on hand, of course, to answer questions. Although floodwaters are receding in Fort McMurray and Fort Vermilion, the hard work continues for provincial and local emergency management teams as they respond and recover from these floods. Today, I want to begin by recognizing the patience and the strength of more than 14,000 Albertans who've had to leave their homes. The generosity and the hard work of all those who are responding to this emergency, and the warm hospitality of folks in surrounding communities who have taken in evacuees truly demonstrates what it means to be an Albertan. Although it's no surprise to see Albertans respond this way, please know that your help is making a terrible situation much more manageable. Leaving your homes during a disaster is never ideal. And when you add the stress of dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, it has certainly been a difficult and challenging week for everyone in northern Alberta affected by flooding. But things continue to look up. We're seeing improvements in river conditions in the Fort McMurray area. Water levels have now fallen by 7.6 meters on the Athabasca, and on the Clearwater River, water levels have dropped by 1 to 1.5 meters since it peaked on Sunday. We also know that the toe of the Athabasca ice jam released overnight. The Athabasca River ice jam, which was once 25 kilometers long, is now down to about 9 kilometers. Over on the Clearwater, aerial observations confirm that the ice jam has started to melt at the mouth of the river, and for the next few days, water levels on the Clearwater River are expected to fluctuate as ice moves downstream. The good news is, at this moment, the River Forecast Centre is not anticipating additional flooding as a result of the ice moving downstream. On the Peace River, water levels have fallen in Fort Vermilion and Beaver Ranch and are now below pre-breakup levels. However, the ice jam, located 24 kilometers downstream of the Garden River community, does remain in place, with incoming ice from upstream adding an additional 20 kilometers to this ice jam. The total length of the Peace River ice jam is now 44 kilometers. Leadership at the Little Red River Cree First Nation in the Peace region issued a state of local emergency on April 27th. We know several thousand people could be affected by flooding in the Little Red River Cree Nation. Backflooding of creeks in that area has cut off road access to the east side of Garden River, but no houses have been reported flooded at this time. 560 people in Garden River have been evacuated, and at least 400 of them need shelter supports along with non-perishable food. Right now they are camping out but we are working, with the Provincial Operations Centre to get temporary shelter and food to them as quickly as possible, particularly because residents of Fox Lake are also preparing to evacuate. This could mean an additional 6,000 people may need support, and we are working with our emergency management teams to provide that support. Now, as we begin a lengthy recovery process, I want to assure everyone who's had their homes or businesses damaged in these floods that there is assistance coming. Disaster recovery programs are intended for exactly this type of situation, the situations that we are seeing in Wood Buffalo and Fort Vermilion in Mackenzie County. These programs are there to assist with uninsurable damages so residents and business owners can restore property and municipalities can recover costs for infrastructure damages, evacuations, and emergency responses. If you haven't already, residents and business owners should be working now with their insurance providers, and more details on the Disaster Recovery Program funding and application program will be shared soon. I also want to remind all evacuees that the application for emergency evacuation payments of $1,250 per adult and $500 per dependent child will begin at Monday at noon. For more information and the affected communities that are impacted, the list will be on our website at alberta.ca/emergency next week. I should be clear on that. It'll be available at alberta.ca/emergency next week. That's the last part's not part of the website. I will close this by saying that this has been a busy week, and there's another busy week ahead for everyone on the ground responding to these flood events. But to be clear, conditions are improving, and we're beginning to turn the corner from response to recovery. And with that, Scott and I would be happy to take your questions.
Okay, can we put the first question through?
First and only question so far is from Rafi Boudjikanian with CBC. Go ahead, Rafi.
Well, I was not expecting that. Minister Nixon, do you have any sense of how long yet until everyone can go back in? And if not, how long everyone can go back in, then when the next wave of people will be able to go back in?
So we're dealing with evacuees in multiple locations in the province who are at different stages of this process. My understanding is notices have gone out for certain portions of Fort McMurray. I'll refer to Scott if he's aware of those locations and communities where residents are already returning. But the reality is that's going to have to be a staged process. There's certainly portions of all communities that are impacted at the moment where evacuees cannot go back. We're still dealing with removing water from certain portions, and the reality is we're still waiting for the water to recede in other areas. So nobody can answer that question at the moment, but we do have evacuees returning now, and I expect throughout the weekend that will continue. As for the full length of when we can expect everybody to be back home, I don't think that's been determined, but I'll look at Scott to see if he has anything that he wants to add to that.
Thanks, Minister. I'll just reiterate that the focus right now is on the actual evacuees and the evacuee supports. The government supporting local authorities in that endeavor. We've got NGOs engaged to make sure that food supply chains are not impacted. We've got food banks established, the evacuee payment cards. We are assisting RMWB, Fort Vermilion and Garden River right now in terms of making sure that all those evacuees have all the supports they have and assisting them in getting back as quickly as possible. Dewatering is taking place. Damage assessment teams are out. As the Minister said, there is no firm timeline now, but we are well aware that people need to get back to their homes as quickly as possible, but there are a number of steps to make sure that it's safe for them to do so.
You have a follow-up, Rafi? Oh, okay. We'll go to the next caller.
We have Kenny Trenton from Kicks FM. Go ahead, Kenny.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Minister Nixon. Now my question for you is that you had mentioned that now the ice jam in the Peace River has expanded to 44 kilometers long with a combination of other ice jams making their way up. Just out of curiosity, do you believe that could cause any problems, or has your forecasting team indicated to you that, at least in terms of immediate flooding, that the worst is over with?
Yeah, the increased size of that ice jam and the combining of those ice jams in that area is certainly having an impact on Garden River. It already is having an impact, and that impact may increase in the coming days. We're watching that very closely. In general, after that ice starts to move past this point, there are only a few other spots where the river forecast team would be concerned. My understanding is most of those areas where it could hold up from that point on are not very populated areas. We still obviously want to protect infrastructure, roads or bridges in those areas, and we'll watch it closely. But the anticipation is when we can break it past this place that the ice can flow on out of here and we can finally move past this situation.
Do you have a follow-up, Kenny?
I do, thank you. My second question, Minister Nixon, maybe too soon to tell, but at least in terms of Mackenzie County, is it too soon to say when residents may be able to potentially start returning home?
I don't have the exact details of when residents could return in Mackenzie County. Obviously, we're working closely with the municipality. As Scott said, the priority at this moment is continuing to dewater and get water out of the community, as well as assess damage, and in particular look to make sure we're dealing with safety issues, down power lines, getting water up and running, and making sure that the community can operate safely. And then we'll work with the municipality on re-entry. I do anticipate that it will be staged, particularly when it comes to Fort McMurray. There are portions of that community that have been impacted in different ways, but it will be done ultimately with the goal of getting people returned to their homes as fast as possible, but taking into consideration, of course, safety of residents and all of the personnel that's on the ground.
I think we have one more question.
Thank you, Minister.
Oh, thanks, Kenny. I think we have one more question, so we can pop that through. Nope. Oh, operator, can we pop through the next question?
Yeah, we put Rafi through for a follow-up. Please go ahead.
Super, thanks.
Yes, hi there. Sorry to be a nag on this point. It's just I understand you're saying no clear timeline for everyone to go back in because of various issues. yesterday we did hear Mayor Don Scott suggest that it might be up to 7 days. So why have we now gone from up to 7 days to no clear timeline? What has changed?
Well, I think that the mayor is on the ground understanding what's happening very specifically with communities. I think his assessment that there are residents that could be away from their homes for as long as 7 days is a completely fair assessment. But at the same time, we have residents returning this afternoon. So I don't really think anything's changed. We're working on the ground to determine when residents can safely enter communities. That process will start today and will be done with the lens of safety and making sure that people can return to their homes safely and as soon as possible. But again, I want to stress there are still things that have to happen in certain communities for that to be done safely.
Excellent. I think that's everyone.
All right, thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks,
Have a good
guys.
weekend.